Up and Adam.
Tractor systems are offline.
We are Beyond FM.
Beyond FM.
The future of broadcasting is here.
Up and Adam with Adam Montiel. It's community content from Concentrate. It's Up and Adam with Adam Montiel.
Some say life is where it begins. Straight to the stars is where it ends. Yes, some say life is just where it begins. Straight to the stars is where it ends. Only to start again.
Wednesday, smack dab middle of the week. Thank you so much for being Up and Adam. My name is Adam Montiel. And what if I told you the most outrageous, cinematic, and downright bonkers story in football history was not even fiction? A team so dysfunctional, their quarterback drank at halftime. Their field was covered in elephant poop. Their checks mostly bounced. But then add in bombings by the Klan, civil rights before it was safe or popular, a Thanksgiving Day miracle, and a group of men stumbling their way into something bigger than themselves. It's not just a sports story. It's a snapshot of America. Raw, ridiculous, and completely real. Coming up, journalist David Fleming joins us to talk about the incredible untold tale behind a big mess in Texas. His new book that pulls back the curtain on the 1952 Dallas Texans, the last NFL team to fail, but maybe one of the most important. This is really about the stories we nearly lost, the ghosts history tries to forget, and what happens when a team becomes a time capsule for a country trying to find its way. Even if you've never watched a snap of football, this story is going to grab you. I was super interested in it. You're going to laugh, you'll wince a little bit, and you're going to walk away with a story that you'll never forget. So this episode, not just for the football fan, but the history buff, the curious soul, and anyone who knows that sometimes the biggest messes, they leave the deepest marks. Before that, this is the SF Gate story I've had for a couple of days. I finally want to get to it because it's just sitting here. And SF Gate rolls down from the Bay. I don't know if you saw the article, but they had this article called Heartbreaking California Town, Downtown is on the Brink, right? So SF Gate rolls down from the Bay to tell us downtown slow is heartbreaking, and it's on the brink. And a lot of true stuff in the piece. Vacancies, rent spikes, tariffs, parking whiplash. Look, we've been talking about this stuff for years. But let's be real. Something about San Francisco media diagnosing our Main Street feels rich, to say the least. Because like if we're playing Who's on the Brink, San Francisco's been bleeding people and businesses since 2020, and it hasn't bounced back. The city's population down over 30,000 residents since 2020. It's ticked down again just last year. Steepest drop among big California counties. San Francisco Chronicle headline from just a few months ago. Listen to this. San Francisco's population drops again as city struggles to retain residents. And how about that skyline full of ghost floors? San Francisco office vacancies, though, 34%. Over a third vacant. And retail? We all watched the flagship farewells. Nordstrom, a parade of majors, walked from their downtown in the last couple of years. And y'all couldn't even keep your drugstores. Now, fair is fair. Union Square is also landing some new big ticket tenants. Cool. Trying to climb back. Get it. Great. Comeback stories are sexy. But that's my point. Every downtown's complicated. So when San Francisco, when the Gate tries to paint slow like it's a lost cause and it reads a little bit like, hello, Paul, I'm Keto. So here's where I land. Yeah, Higuera's got bruises. We've got some big spaces sitting dark, but we also filled some big spaces. Think of like that Thrifty Beaches. That guy's going gangbusters. Took up the place next door, the old Ross, right? And yeah, City Hall's parking saga did us no favors, but our vacancy rate on the small storefront level, Downtown Slow's own data says 8%, well below the national average. So that context matters too. So SF Gate, appreciate the spotlight, truly. Some of what you captured is real, but if the thesis is slow is on the brink, I would tweak the headline to something like, a lot of major California downtowns slows in a rebuild. And our fix is local, getting parking policy out of the way, align landlords with reality, and market the hell out of what still works well here. And work with local businesses, focus on what matters. And we don't need San Francisco's diagnosis to do that. Union Square can work on Union Square. You got plenty going on there. We'll work on Higuera. biatch. In the meantime, buy something from a local that you want to still see here in the next couple of years. That's a way to help. All right, listen, I want to get into my conversation with the one and only David Fleming. I really enjoyed talking to him. First, I want to tell you about my friends at Life Elements. You know that thing we all say when something hurts, but we don't want to deal with it? Oh, I'm fine. Yeah, been there, done that. Life Elements is for that. It's for the bruises, the bites, the sore joints, the stiff neck, the stuff you've been quietly living with that you don't have to anymore. Based in Atascadero, Life Elements is making powerful plant-based wellness products that are as safe as they are effective. Think CBD, broad spectrum, magnesium, calendula, arnica, and essential oils blended into sprays, sticks, and balms that actually do something, that actually heal. Visit them, 7425 El Camino Real, Suite O, back right corner of the plaza, can't miss it, or shop their curated collection at places like The Hive in Arroyo Grande, the General Store, Paso, and online, of course, lifeelements.com, where you use the promo code Adam, save 15% online. Don't just be fine. Feel better. Support local. Smell amazing. Be healed. Check out Life Elements and let them know you heard them on Up and Adam.
It's Up and Adam with Adam Montiel.
All right, my guest today is a master of the deep dive. You've seen his byline at ESPN, maybe caught his name in a Peabody nomination, or heard whispers about a book so wild, so jaw-dropping, you assume it had to be made up. But it is all true. David Fleming is here with A Big Mess in Texas, the real-life, no-holds-barred story of the 1952 Dallas Texans, a team that makes the Bad News Bears look put together. A team that lasted one season, lost almost every game, and still managed to make football history while colliding with racism, chaos, circus elephants, no joke. Literally, yeah. But this isn't just about football. It's really about the beauty of failure, kind of the weird poetry of forgotten stories, and even stories that, we try and hide, sweep under the rug. And what happens when one writer refuses to let the past stay buried? I love that he pursued this. He's one of the best storytellers working today. David Fleming, man, thank you for being Up and Adam.
Sure. Happy to be here. Appreciate it.
Now, before the Super Bowl became an unofficial national holiday, before the halftime show had more viewers than the game itself, there was 1952 and a team so dysfunctional, it felt like fiction. When you first started peeling back the layers of the 1952 Dallas Texans, did you realize that you weren't just writing about a football team, but really about a moment in time when the NFL wasn't yet a brand? It was like a bet.
Oh, man. So, Adam, you've dialed right into the heart of this story. And what I loved about it was, as somebody who's covered the NFL for decades, to come across a team and stories that I had never even heard of. But also, again, you just nailed it. I know the NFL is our national pastime and the ratings are crazy. The earnings are billions and billions. It's very corporate now. But this era, this Wild West era of the NFL, in the 1950s, before the TV money kicked in, it's my favorite era of the NFL. I mean, it was violent. It was colorful. The players they were all just crazy characters. They had fun. That was the best part about this. Was it's almost like you fall back in love with football by going back to this disastrous team from 1952.
You open the book and immediately you're hit with the buffet of the absurd, like bounced checks, sex in the phone booth, paternity lawsuits, drunk quarterbacks, and literal rattlesnakes on the practice field. But then the Klan shows up, and then things turn obviously super dark. How did you navigate the emotional whiplash of telling a story that flips between hilarious and then horrifying, often within the same paragraph?
Okay, first of all, Adam, I just want you to know I am 100% stealing the buffet of the absurd. I'm totally taking that line, and I wish we could have put it on the cover. That would have been awesome, because honestly, you just summed it up, this whole story, perfectly. It's it is one absurd, stranger than fiction story after the other. But you bring up a really good point, and I've really appreciated readers so far. They understand that along with this sort of crazy, hilarious, bizarre story, there's actually really important story that's threaded in the middle of it. And we took a tone, the racial part of the story and the race part of the story is very important. And it's one of the great shames in the fact that the Texans have been lost to history is that these players like Buddy Young and George Taliaferro, players who have been referenced as the Jackie Robinsons of the NFL, what they did and what they had to endure in Dallas in 1952 should not be lost to history. I mean, it should be honored and they should be given credit for basically integrating Texas sports 15 years before the Texas Longhorns had a black player on their roster. So there's a really important part of this story. And I think that what we ended up doing was this book, the other thing is this book is so much WTF, right? And we tried to incorporate what those players had to deal with in the Jim Crow South as sort of the same kind of like, you're not going to believe this. You're not going to believe that actual NFL players couldn't live with the rest of their teammates and sort of had to live in an area that had a series of unsolved house bombings. And so I want people to know the full story. We tried to do it that way where it was like, of all the things you're not going to believe that in 1952, the NFL tried to put an integrated roster into Dallas and it went horribly, horribly wrong.
It's like the universe dared this team to exist for one season just so we'd have a story to tell. What do you think it says about American sports culture that the Texans failed so spectacularly, and yet somehow they end up becoming the wholesome Baltimore Colts?
Oh, I mean, if you're like me, I love that, right? And I love that it feels like the NFL has tried to like go, no, that didn't happen. The fact that this sort of like all-American Johnny Unitas button down Baltimore Colts started out as a team that essentially, couldn't get people to support them because their roster was integrated and ended up sort of like drinking itself out of the league, drinking and partying themselves out of the league. I love that mess is what created the Baltimore Colts. And I also love that the NFL seems to want to erase that part of its history, which is stupid because it's so much fun and it tells the full story of the NFL. And I think the Colts just look even better that they started as this dysfunctional buffet of the absurd in Dallas.
Now, Miller may not be a household name, but he might be one of the most compelling characters in sports history when you look at it. I mean, what drew you to Giles Miller? What drew you to him as a character? Was he kind of this visionary, this fool, maybe a little bit of both? Yeah,
it was the fact that I mean, as a writer and a researcher, when you're like 10% into this adventure and you realize your main character is Giles Miller, you are like thanking the stars because, I mean, you're absolutely right. The guy was like the youngest millionaire in America. He was this sort of like classic 1950s dreamer and schemer. But he was also sort of tragically flawed too. He was the full spectrum. He had huge dreams, but no follow through. And he was a guy who was a boxer and the lead singer of a band. And his friends were all sort of like rich knuckleheads, and he's easy to root for, but just over and over and over again with this team, he just kind of, you want him to succeed and he just kind of falls flat on his face over and over again. And I love, there's this great scene when he bought the team, when he basically paid more money in history for the worst team in NFL history. The Saturday Evening Post did a story on him, and they called him the biggest chump in America. Ooh. And he kind of lived up to that because it was just one disaster after another. You forget the Texans roster was loaded, and if they could have survived, they really would have become something pretty spectacular in Dallas. And eventually, I think losing all that money and then being so close to becoming America's team, it sort of drove Giles Miller crazy. It's really kind of like this tragic ending to the story.
And we talk about the NFL as this billion-dollar juggernaut now, but this team, this mess, was part of its origin history. It's kind of like a family album with a torn page that nobody really wants to talk about. Do you think the league has actively tried to erase the Texans from public memory? And if so, how come?
Yeah, 100%. They 100% have. And I think it's because of the racial aspect of the story. And I just don't get it. Right. How do you not give credit to Buddy Young and George Talfaro and Giles Miller? Because think about what Giles Miller did. He was born and bred in Texas, and he still supported having, from the beginning, he was 100% behind having an integrated roster, having the best players possible. And the city of Dallas essentially turned their back on him because of that and bankrupted his family. And but out of that was a really important milestone. And historians in Texas have said, without a doubt, that this team really helped create some of the systemic cracks that destroyed the Jim Crow laws in Dallas. And the NFL should absolutely claim that history and be proud of that. But I feel like they're so buttoned down and so corporate and so afraid of anything that might not be politically correct. They've just kind of shut the door on that part of their history, which is insane, because you can learn the darker side of the story and still enjoy it and still like sort of get a kick out of all the craziness that went on at the same time. If I were commissioner, I would be honoring this team left and right.
Yeah, kind of look, it's weird. Like there's two things I think of. I think of like us tearing down, they want to take every Thomas Jefferson school and change the name, tear down every statue. Then I think of baseball, without the dark sides, you don't have a Jackie Robinson story. I mean, the Negro Leagues is now where the Bananas are partnering up with them for promotion. Like they're really trying to hey, yeah, there's dark sides of this history, but if we shine the light on it, that's the disinfectant right there.
Yeah, and I tell you what was really weird was, and I realized the minute you do the research, you understand you can't turn your back on this part of the story. It's integral to the Texans' overall story. But that one of the reasons, going back to your other question, which I didn't fully answer, is that this story has been, as it's been retold infrequently, it's been nostalgically whitewashed, like a lot of history. People have just sort of glossed over the fact that the town hated this team because the roster was integrated and because they had women on they dared to have women on their board of directors, and they had an Irish Catholic coach, and they had trainers and equipment managers of different ethnic backgrounds. I mean, that story has not been told. And that is really a big part of the untold story. And maybe it's too grand, but what a great legacy for, if this book doesn't accomplish anything else, if it at least maybe gets Buddy Young and George Talfaro credit and the honor they deserve. I know their families would appreciate that. I will tell you, some of the most chilling quotes in the entire book are George Talfaro, who grew up in Indiana or Gary and was in Chicago for a while. He speaks very plainly about the risk of getting lynched in Dallas in 1952. And he talks about it like it's a fact. It's a matter of fact, and that it's chilling that he had to live in a section of Dallas. The rest of the players lived in North Dallas. He and Buddy Young had to live in South Dallas, where a series of 12 unsolved house bombings had just were still going on when they moved to Dallas. And it's almost hard to imagine.
Yeah, kind of running it back where you're saying a minute ago, about the culture and integrating black players playing on Sundays in the Bible Belt. The Texans didn't just kind of face football challenges. They kind of collided with culture, and all the culture wars of their time. How did this team become an unexpected flashpoint in the fight between sports, yes, race, religion you touched on?
So I love I love this part of the story, and I can't believe it hasn't been told. But Giles Miller, which was fairly typical. I mean, he was raised in a mansion, and his father was the textile magnate of the South, and they had gobs and gobs of money. Okay, but Giles Miller was essentially raised by a black man named Earl Goins, and that when Giles got older, he was like, as I built this team, I had to look Earl in the face, in the eyes, and if I had immediately traded our black players, I wouldn't be able to face Earl. And it's funny, this is how change happens. This is how growth happens. That somebody like Giles Miller, whose friends were probably all, maybe on the wrong side of history, Giles says, no, I know men like this, and I need to be able to look them in the eye. And so we are going to support and fully keep our black players on the roster. And you're right. In Texas, they thought playing for money was undignified. Giles' own mother didn't like the fact that they were playing on Sundays, and Giles couldn't get like a local pastor to come out to the game to give like the pregame prayer. They all just said no, and so they were fighting a lot of problems and issues. I guess in retrospect, it's probably not surprising that they couldn't draw flies to the Cotton Bowl. But Giles Miller, again, God love him. He was like full steam ahead. We can do this. And he thought eventually people would come around.
Some dreams, they cost more than money, and Giles lost more than cash when the Texans folded. What did writing this story teach you about, David, about ambition, especially when it collides with the truth?
Yeah, it's funny. It's such a great point. His family lost millions at a time when they were leveraged, and that really sort of attempting to put a team in Dallas really destroyed the Miller family and the Miller fortune. But what he lost that affected Giles more was his social standing, and for embarrassing Dallas and for trying to integrate Dallas sports. The town really turned their back on Giles, and he goes through, after the Texans, he goes through a series of different schemes to try and earn his family's money back. And he just keeps going. It's failure after failure after failure until finally he basically dies in 1986 in obscurity. And the family is sort of left to wonder for generations, what happened to all our money? And, he does become sort of a tragic figure. And I will tell you, it's sort of a side note, but, Giles Miller is the grandfather of Rhett Miller, who is the lead singer of the iconic Texas band, the Old 97s. And Rhett has been asking these questions for generations, trying to figure it out too. And so Rhett has been really important part of like trying to understand Giles Miller and trying to understand how this went sideways, how they were so close to owning America's team.
Yeah. Some stories, David, they grow over time, right? But your book like takes meticulous detail in proving these tall tales are unbelievably real. What was the wildest detail that you fact checked and you're like, oh my God, that's 100% true?
Oh God, how much time do we have, Adam? It was, I have to say, so there's a great story. So the team, they go bankrupt. The league takes the team over and they move them of all places to Hershey, Pennsylvania. Who knows why? And the players are just angry at this point. They're 0-9. They're last in every statistical category. So they move to Hershey and they basically go on a bender that would embarrass any of Jimmy Johnson's Dallas Cowboys teams. And they drink Hershey dry over the next month. And one of their games that they had a 350-pound defensive lineman named Chubby Grigg. And he would go into the biggest bar in Hershey and he would walk in and he would order 17 shots. And then he would pick out a teammate and he would say, okay, it's your turn. And they would have to race they would line up all the shots on the bar and they would race inward, and whoever got the ninth shot would quote unquote win. And the thing that I had to fact check over and over again, because I couldn't believe it was true. Chubby did this. The last time Chubby did this, he ended up passing out inside the bar. And the team had to run out and borrow a kid's winter sled. And they put Chubby's passed out body on the sled. And it took 8 teammates to pull Chubby through the snow, through the downtown Hershey to get him back to his to the team hotel room. And Art Donovan, who is just an all-time classic character and really is at the heart of this team and this story, he had always told that story, but it wasn't until I could verify it with 1 or 2 other former teammates that I was like, okay, we're going to write this great story about Chubby Grigg and his funeral procession through Hershey.
That's so good. Man, that is so good. You're reading the book, and the way I love the way you put it together, because it feels like finding NFL's like underground mixtape. You know, it's raw, it's funny, it's weird, but it's all so real. And you know, we treat football like religion in this country, and like any religion, it's got its saints, it's got its skeletons. But I really think I love the way you look at the sports shadow stories, not just the highlight reels. Like this book does such a great job with that.
Yeah, and that's, you know, what you discovered was this what I love about this team is they're kind of the Forrest Gump of the NFL, right? Their coach was a legend at Notre Dame and at Purdue. Their owner, his grandson, is a legend in the music industry. This team had Gino Marchetti, one of the all-time great defensive players in NFL history, was a rookie on this team. This team had they had a trainer with one leg. They had their coach was Irish Catholic, and he used to hotwire. He was a pilot in the war, and he used to hotwire airplanes and like take them for joyrides and bring them back. This team became the Baltimore Colts. This team had George Young, who was a Hall of Fame GM for the New York Giants. It just feels like this team is interconnected with almost every aspect of NFL history. Oh, and they even had, let's see, Fritz von Erich, otherwise known as the Iron Claw from wrestling fame. He was on this team's training camp roster. I mean, it goes on and on and on.
It's all so real. This is so good. And the best part, your enthusiasm is contagious over this. So David, it was really a pleasure to cross paths with you. I hope I get a chance to talk to you again, man. This was awesome. Thanks for the chat.
Adam, I will see you at the movie premiere, all right? Fingers crossed.
Yes, let's go. Let's do this, bro. I'll ask you the questions. I'll ask you the questions on the red carpet. I love it.
Oh, I'll have a tuxedo on, man. Yeah, nice, I appreciate it.
Thanks for being up and Adam, man.
Okay, thanks.
Some say life's where it begins. Straight to the stars is where it ends. Only to start again.
All right, big thanks, David Fleming, for joining us today, bringing that story to life in only the way that he can. Learn more, grab the book. We've got links, everything you need at your fingertips in the show notes, so check it out. All right, well, October in San Luis Obispo, anything but ordinary. It is Arttober. From live performances to public art, museums, and the always fun piano in the plaza, creativity is everywhere, all around you. Don't miss it. Find out your Arttober adventure at slowcity.org/Arttober. And, you know, speaking of, we had him on earlier this week. There's still time to get those tickets to the opera this weekend, 18th and 19th, 2 p.m. matinee shows, so you can still have the rest of your evening. Hansel and Gretel, full family-friendly fun, fantastic world-class vocals, and then you got this kids chorus. It's just going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be super fun, so get to it. Go to, I'll put the links in the show notes today again too, but operaslow.org. and get your tickets and use the promo code. Remember, we told you this promo code they gave us. It makes the tickets only $25. Opera tickets ain't cheap. 50, 80, 100 bucks. It's going to make them $25. Use the promo code Hansel, HANSEL 25. Hansel 25. Use that promo code when you buy your tickets to Hansel and Gretel from Slow Opera at the Pack this weekend. Check it out. All right. Thank you so much to, again, David Fleming. Thanks to Moonshiner Collective for being up and Adam, original music on the show called Start Again. Check them out, stream them wherever you get your music, moonshinercollective.com for more. Our friends, Josh and Shiasa Clapper, world-class wine, Tamber Winery. Love them. Love the Tamber Lobro Studios. Check them out. Taste their wines in the village of Arroyo Grande. TIMBRE, tamberwinery.com. And thank you for connecting here, rating, reviewing, subscribing to the podcast wherever you listen to it, sharing it with a friend, even just copying the link, texting it to a friend of yours. Do that today. That could be a great way to spread things out, especially a football fan in your life or a person who loves crazy stories. I'm not a big football fan, but I love the way this guy has told stories when I see him, and I was really into this story, especially his enthusiasm and the way he told it. So super good stuff. Till tomorrow, it'll be Thursday. This week going quick. Beautiful. Rain done. That's good. SoCal sunny all around. Temps mid to upper 60s in slow. Coming up over the weekend, though, temps mid to upper 70s. Looking good. In North County, Paso, A-Town, about the same. All right, till tomorrow, I'm Adam Montiel. Thank you so much for being up and at 'em.
Some say life is where it begins. Straight to the stars is where it ends. Only to start again. Let's start again. We'll start again. Let's start again.